Every good story involves a problem for our protagonists to overcome. Almost invariably, the problem appears intractable, and often it involves a mortal threat. The story in the book of Esther fits both descriptions perfectly. Our reading for today introduces the problem, and it checks both boxes. It is both apparently intractable and it involves a mortal threat. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Tuesday, September 20th, 2022. To recap what we've read so far, we've been introduced to the Persian king Ahasuerus, who has deposed his queen Vashti and has selected a new queen in her place, Esther. Unknown to Ahasuerus, Esther is a Jew, not a Persian. Also unknown to Ahasuerus, Esther has an uncle who watches from the wings to help guide her in her new role. The first thing her uncle does is to uncover a plot to assassinate Ahasuerus, which he then passes through Esther for her to tell the king. Loyalty to the king established. Today we meet a new character, a man named Haman, the villain of the story. Here's how he's introduced, and here's the problem facing our protagonists. After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the officials who were with him. And all the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and did obeisance to Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai did not bow down or do obeisance. Then the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's command?" When they spoke to him day after day and he would not listen to them, they told Haman, in order to see whether Mordecai's words would avail, for he had told them that he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow down or do obeisance to him, Haman was infuriated. But he thought it beneath him to lay hands on Mordecai alone. So, having been told who Mordecai's people were, Haman plotted to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus. As you can see, this is indeed a big problem. Now, there's a piece of this that needs a bit of explanation. Our ancient Jewish relatives would have picked up on this immediately, but it is not so obvious to us. When we first met Mordecai, the writer made clear to emphasize that he was a Benjaminite, that is, a member of the tribe of Benjamin. Now we read about Haman, and we learn that Haman was an Agagite. As I say, ancient Jews would have picked up on this immediately. Benjaminites and Agagites were sworn enemies. It goes back to the days when Saul was king of Israel, and you can read about it in 1 Samuel 15. The long and short of it is this. Saul was, like Mordecai, a Benjaminite. One of his enemies was a people called the Amalekites, apparently descendants of Esau. And the king of the Amalekites? You guessed it, Agag. So when we read that Mordecai was a Benjaminite and Haman a descendant of Agag the Amalekite, well, we know there is instant dislike, one for the other. But it's not just that they harbor old family grudges. The presenting issue is that when Ahasuerus made Haman his royal vizier, an official to whom all others must bow down, Mordecai refuses to bow down or give him obeisance. At first glance, it seems this is just because Mordecai is Jewish, and it would be easy to assume that since Jews later would not sacrifice to the Roman emperors, Mordecai is simply standing on Jewish tradition. But it's more than that, and apparently Haman knows it. It is a direct insult from one ancient enemy to another. No wonder Haman becomes angry. And if he were only angry at Mordecai, we might be able to understand it. But Haman's anger now turns to all Jews in the entire Persian Empire. You might say this was the original form of what became later in Hitler's Germany the final solution. As you can see, the problem is large and apparently intractable, and the danger catastrophic. If Haman succeeds in his plan, untold thousands, perhaps millions, will die, all because Mordecai would not bow down to Haman. So what have we learned about Haman and Mordecai? Of Mordecai, we know that he is either a man of high principle, or he's willing to allow his family's long-standing feud with the family of Haman to threaten the very existence of his whole people. To the writer's credit, he doesn't make the judgment for us, but leaves it an open question for now. But as for Haman, well, we've learned that he is a vain and vindictive man, particularly when it comes to the perquisites that come with his high office. For one man's offense, he is willing to wipe an entire race of people off the face of the earth. He is unalloyed evil personified. So, an ancient feud, an intractable problem, and a potential Holocaust in the making. The stakes could not be higher. When we return tomorrow, the proverbial plot thickens. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do, this day and in all the days ahead.